It was a tense night in downtown Los Angeles. The streets were filled with protesters, and the police were out in full force. Amidst the chaos, a young man named Alex stood calmly on the sidewalk, his camera at the ready. Alex was a 22-year-old journalism student at UCLA. He was well versed in his First Amendment rights and had a passion for holding those in power accountable. So when he saw a police officer, Officer Jackson, pushing a protester to the ground, Alex couldn't resist the opportunity to film. As Officer Jackson approached Alex, his eyes narrowed. "What do you think you're doing?" he growled. Alex stood his ground, camera still rolling. "I'm exercising my First Amendment right to film a public official in a public space, officer," he replied calmly. Officer Jackson sneered. "You're interfering with police business. You need to turn that off and show me your ID." Alex smiled sweetly. "I'm not interfering with anything, officer, and I don't need to show you my ID. I'm not operating a vehicle, and I'm not suspected of a crime." Officer Jackson's face turned red with anger. "You're being disobedient," he growled. "You need to comply." Alex chuckled. "I'm not being disobedient, officer. I'm simply exercising my rights. And I'd like to remind you that the First Amendment protects my right to film and photograph public officials." Officer Jackson's anger turned to rage as he realized he was being schooled by a 22-year-old. He lunged at Alex, grabbing for his camera. But Alex was quick. He dodged Officer Jackson's grasp and continued filming, his heart racing with excitement. The crowd around them began to chant, "Let him go! Let him go!" As Officer Jackson's face turned purple with rage. Suddenly, a police car screeched to a halt beside them, and the police chief leapt out. "Officer Jackson, what's going on here?" he demanded. Officer Jackson hesitated, still seething with anger. "This kid is refusing to comply," he growled. The police chief turned to Alex. "Son, are you okay?" he asked. Alex nodded, still filming. "I'm fine, sir. Just exercising my First Amendment rights." The police chief nodded. "Good for you, son. You have every right to film public officials. Officer Jackson, you need to apologize to this young man." Officer Jackson's face fell as he realized he had been destroyed by a young, informed citizen. He mumbled an apology and slunk away, his tail between his legs. As Alex continued to film, the crowd around him erupted in cheers. He had stood up for his rights and had come out on top. But the drama wasn't over yet. As Alex turned to leave, he was confronted by Officer Jackson's partner, Officer Rodriguez. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Officer Rodriguez sneered. "Well, let me tell you something, kid. You're not as smart as you think you are." Alex smiled calmly. "I'm not trying to be smart, officer. I'm just exercising my rights." Officer Rodriguez snarled. "You're going to regret this, kid. You're going to regret filming us." Alex chuckled. "I'm not afraid of you, officer. And I'm not going to stop filming." Officer Rodriguez's face turned red with rage, and for a moment, it seemed like he was going to lunge at Alex. But then, he seemed to think better of it and stormed off, leaving Alex to continue filming. As Alex walked away from the scene, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had stood up for his rights and had come out on top. The video quickly went viral, with many praising Alex for his bravery and knowledge of his rights. And Officer Jackson and Officer Rodriguez? They received a stern warning from their department and were forced to undergo additional training on citizens' rights. As for Alex, he continued to film and photograph public officials, always standing up for his rights and holding those in power accountable. He became a local hero, known for his bravery and his commitment to the First Amendment.